Hello and welcome to another video. In this video, I would like to talk to you about ethical veganism. I would like to discuss some very good reasons why you should follow a vegan diet. A vegan diet essentially is a diet that is completely devoid of animal-based products. So any animal product that you can think of, whether it's meat, any kind of meat, seafood, fish, but also products that are derived from insects, such as honey. That's an obvious one. So ethical veganism is a philosophy, but also a dietary style that avoids all animal products, all insect products, and all the things that derive from animal and insects. A lot of these arguments, I published 2 books about the topic: Ethical Veganism, Virtue Ethics, and the Great Soul, and also Raw Veganism, the Philosophy of the Human Diet. So if you're interested in further exploring these arguments, I recommend reading these books. Now, let me start by saying one of the biggest problems of our time is that there are too many animals we human beings bring into existence by way of artificial insemination. Many animals. We're talking about 3 billion animals, farm animals, killed every single day in the United States alone. 3 trillion every year. This is terrible, very terrible for the environment, and also bad for human health. Let me begin by talking about the one ethical aspect concerning factory farms and fish farms. Because you know that the animal products that you buy at the store, milk, dairies, eggs, meat, fish, etc., these products come from factory farms or fish farms where they raise animals. They raise animals for food. What happens on these farms? Well, concerning land animals, unfortunately, there are many practices that are allowed. They are very painful. Tail docking, dehorning, castration, debeaking, hot iron branding. Well, a lot of these practices are done in order to avoid lesions and harm, because animals, it seems obvious that when you put a number of animals in closed quarters, they often fight and they hurt each other. So the problem is that these animals are crammed by the thousands in cages. They will never raise their families, play, build nests, do whatever is natural to them. Unfortunately, we are not don't think of animals in terms of what they are. And they are individuals They have lives. They have families. But that's the reality. That's who they are. So they will never be able to do what is natural to them, because they are raised on farms and then they're sent off to slaughterhouses where they will die. They were killed. Fish farms also are terrible places. Once again, if you buy seafood, most likely it comes from fish farms. The problem with fish farms is that they're, once again, overcrowded. Now, if you wonder, why do they have to be overcrowded? Well, they have to be overcrowded because factory farms are businesses, and a business has to grow and maximize profit. So the more animals you can fit in a space, the better. The higher the profit. Now, due to this fact, the fact that they are overcrowded, then fish suffer from lesions and other injuries. And these injuries and lesions cause diseases and parasite outbreaks. They are then treated with the use of pesticides and antibiotics. So the question about ethical veganism is not as simple as some YouTube videos make it out to be. It's not about your personal taste or your freedom as an individual. This is about enormous quantities, enormous amounts of pesticides, antibiotics, and chemicals that are constantly, daily released and into the environment. Not to mention that these drugs create drug-resistant parasites. That's the reason why parasites evolve. They get stronger and stronger. So the problem is that all these drugs, antibiotics, pesticides, chemicals, don't just disappear. They're not biodegradable, but rather infect the soil. They are absorbed by the soil, into the soil, and also the waters. So they are consumed by humans who eat the seafood, the farmed fish, but also indirectly it goes into plants and kills plants and animals that live in the waters because of all the chemical waste. All these billions and trillions of animals exist not because they naturally reproduce that way, at that rate, but because of artificial insemination. This simply means that there are individuals in this business whose job is to masturbate the male animal, collect the semen, and inject it in various ways, as you can see from the photos, by using their arms, by using the tools, and depositing into the reproductive tract of the females. This happens continually, so that, especially for cows, for example, so that they are always pregnant and they produce milk. Now, what happens to the baby cows? Well, the baby cows are formula fed, obviously, because they are not going to get the mother's milk. Now, and one thing to keep in mind is that on farms, the male animals are pretty much useless because they do not reproduce. They don't get pregnant. So the female animals are allowed to live a little longer than males. Typically, with regard to cows, typically what happens is a baby cow, a calf, is immediately formula fed and then slaughtered very young age, and sold as veal. Whereas female cows are allowed to live a little longer, 4 to 5 years of age, when they can grow to 25 years. So the baby is taken away from the mother and slaughtered immediately in order to produce milk. The milk that is not human food, it is food for the baby cows. What about eggs? Sometimes people think that the production of eggs involves no cruelty whatsoever, but that's that's false. Each day in the United States, at least 700,000 male chicks are tossed into giant grinders, or they're gassed or suffocated or electrocuted. It's the same principle. The male chick, the male animal, is useless. So what happens is, as you can see in this photo, for example, the two individuals who are referred to as sexers, their job is to sort out male from female, and the male is immediately tossed into a meat grinder that grinds him alive. And as I said, some other egg farms use large bins where they deposit all the male chicks, and they drown them or electrocute them or suffocate them. And this happens as a regular practice all over the place. So it's not only in the United States. This is, once again, because male animals are not allowed to live immediately because they are useless. They don't reproduce. The next point that I want to discuss is that although you might think that animal products must be part of a healthful diet, this is actually not true. The opposite, quite the opposite, is true. Human beings do not need animal products. The research for some people is controversial. You hear all the time saying that there is research supporting one side and that there's research supporting the other side. I think that this is false, and you can do your own research and see that the research about nutrition and the negative effects of consuming an animal-based diet or animal-based diets, the results are very consistent and very clear throughout the years. So every time you see a research, it's very clear that experts say we should stay away for our benefit, for our health. We should stay away from animal products because they are linked to cancer, heart disease, stroke. And I'm not referring to only red meats, but dairy products, fish, eggs, all sorts of animal products. In fact, according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, Internal Medicine, vegetarians live longer than meat eaters. This is a known fact. Meat eaters are 3 times more likely to be obese than vegetarians and 9 times more than vegans. So once again, the research is very clear and consistent. Heart disease is more prominent among meat eaters and also vegetarians. Also, a few years ago, probably a decade ago now, the World Health Organization conducted a study where they determined that the certain kinds of meats are cause cancer, and other kinds of meats probably cause cancer. So this piece of evidence has been, I have to say, misused by many vegan supporters, or at least misconstrued. And it doesn't say, so the study doesn't say that all meat causes cancer. What precisely says is that the type of meats that we call processed meats, such as sausages, salami, bacon, they are placed, they have different groups of likelihood. They say these processed meats cause cancer. They're in group 1. Now, in group 2 is they're very likely, that probably causes cancer. They place pork, beef, lamb, and red meat in general. And then all the other animal products follow. On the other hand, there is research on the other side confirming what we already know, that eating vegetables is healthful and it's optimal for human beings. The position of the American Dietetic Association is very clear. Vegetarian diets and diets completely devoid of animal products are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and they also help in the treatment of certain diseases. Now, of course, the American Dietetic Association is not saying that any kind of diet, vegan diet, is optimal. To give you an example, if you drink champagne and whiskey 5 times a day, and then you eat French fries and Oreos, and that's all you eat, well, that by definition is a vegan diet because it lacks animal products. But that's not the position of the American Dietetic Association. They're not saying eat anything that you want in any amounts that you want, and you're going to be fine, and you're going to be healthy. No, they are speaking of specifically diets that incorporate lots of fresh fruit and greens, legumes, nuts, seeds, grains. So not just any kind of diet. That's why they stress the fact that they have to be, these diets, vegan diets, have to be well planned, not just eating Doritos and French fries and Oreos all day. The next thing that I wanted to discuss is sustainability. Because once again, the discussion about ethical veganism is not as simple as reducing it to whether you like the taste of meat and whether or not you're doing anything wrong. It's a more complicated, more complex issue. There's an issue of sustainability. The problem is that animal-based diets that incorporate animal products such as meat, dairies, etc., are not sustainable. What does that mean? It means that we're not able, as a society, to continue this way, to continue animal-based diets. Why? Because, for one thing, we require too much land, lots and lots of land, in order to create pasture land and also grow food for the animals. On vegan diets, if we were to remove animal products from the picture, we would need a fraction of the land used in order to raise animals and grow food for the animals. One example is that 70% of the U.S. grain is fed to farmed animals. This is food that human beings will never see. This is good food. Grains, legumes, that's enough to feed 800 million people. So it is not surprising that scholars say that feeding animals, the food that we grow specifically for animals, is highly inefficient and an absurd use of resources. Because think about it. The animals here is the middleman. Why do we need the middleman? Why grow food for animals, specifically for animals, and then bring billions and billions of animals into existence and then feed them that food, when in reality we would have enough food without the animals, enough food to eliminate starvation and famine in the world. And the world population is growing exponentially. We are going to be nearly 10 billion people very soon. And if the land is not enough now, what are we going to do in 30, 40 years? Well, the solution at the moment, currently, the solution is deforestation. I don't have to tell you why deforestation is a bad idea, right? But in Central America, for example, 40% of all the rainforests have been cleared or burned down in the last 40 years in order to create pasture land and also to grow crops to feed those animals. This is what we have come to at this point. Also, let me mention the fact that it seems obvious that the more animals that you have, the more crops you grow for the animals, this translates into more water, fresh water consumption. And speaking of water, again, rivers carry livestock waste. All the waste, namely the feces and all the chemicals, the pesticides, all the waste from factory farms are carried by the rivers. They end up in the waters and soil, as I said, and so this creates waste that pollutes the waters and kill animals and plants. Furthermore, the livestock sector is the leading cause of global warming. We know that. We know that greenhouse gases typically is methane produced by the animals, is thinning out the ozone layer, and this causes global warming. Just look around. And zoonotic diseases, of course. These are infectious diseases that are spread between animals and people. The COVID-19 is just one example. It's not the first, and it won't be the last. So, to recap, good reasons to go vegan, to follow a vegan diet, or at least try to incorporate more vegetables and decrease the amount of meat and animal products. That's a great step toward a more sustainable and more ethical diet. Animal-based diets cause unnecessary animal cruelty. They are unhealthful and very dangerous for our health. Unsustainable. They waste water. They pollute water. They are inefficient on energy consumption. They cause global warming. And they waste land and certainly destruct forests, deforestation that is caused. Now, last thing that I wanted to talk about is the typical responses, the typical excuses that people have for justifying animal-based diets. These are the typical excuses that I encountered, and I must say at the outset that they're very poor excuses. They're not very good arguments. For example, I hear this argument in many different versions, by the way, that veganism kills many animals through harvesting. Well, even if that's true, in the first place, since meat eaters eat vegetables as well as meat, then they will be double immoral because they contribute to the death of small animals through harvesting, and also the animals that they kill in order to attain meat and animal products. Another argument that I hear a lot, or excuse, is that humans have been eating meat for millions of years. Some people even say it's the very thing that made us human. But when you think about it, an argument like this doesn't really say anything strong or anything plausible, because human beings have been doing lots of things that were questionable. Think about slavery. Think about discrimination. Think about all the wrong habits that human beings have been perpetuating for millions of years. So in order to assess whether a practice is moral or immoral, it's really not a good idea to see whether human beings have been doing that practice, have been doing that for millions of years. The time, the number of years or centuries that an activity or a practice has been around does not tell you about its morality. Also, many people say, that they try veganism, but they're always hungry. Well, that's really a confused argument. It's not veganism the cause of your being hungry. The simple answer is that if you are hungry, it means one thing only. It doesn't mean that you're eating one diet or the other diet. It only means one thing, that you're not eating enough calories. That's all it is. You're not eating enough food. Possibly the most famous or infamous argument is that meat has proteins. Sure, it's true, meat has proteins. But what doesn't have proteins? Broccoli has proteins, bananas has proteins. Any food has proteins. As a matter of fact, cows don't eat meat. And where do they get the proteins? Gorillas don't eat meat. Horses don't eat meat. Buffaloes don't eat meat. And yet they need proteins. Another version of that argument is that fish has omega-3. But the question is, where do fish get omega-3? The answer cannot be that they get omega-3 by eating other fish. Because then I would ask, but where do the other fish get the omega-3? There must be some source of omega-3, and that is plants. That's why fish has omega-3, because they eat plants that have omega-3, and they get omega-3. Also, I hear this a lot. This is a serious argument. Veganism is expensive. The problem with this argument is that it's vague. What does exactly mean to say veganism is expensive? What is veganism? Veganism is not like saying, let's say, the sky is blue. And even that would be controversial. But veganism is just an umbrella term. That means you follow a diet that is devoid of animal products and insect products. But as I demonstrated earlier, you can drink whiskey all day and eat potato chips and nothing else, and that would be a vegan diet. So veganism expensive is really meaningless. Now, you don't believe me? Here's my $100 challenge. Suppose that you have $100 and you have to survive for a week, an entire week. Well, what food are you going to buy? Well, think about it. If it's true that animal products are much, much cheaper than plant products, then you should be able to go to a supermarket and buy fish and meat and cheese and eggs. But I don't think that that's going to work. Why it's not going to work? Because animal products are way more expensive. If you buy rice, potatoes, broccoli, beans, chickpeas, lentils, you're going to survive with $100 for a week, maybe even longer. What this demonstrates is that it is false that veganism is expensive. Not only false, but it's vague. If you're saying whiskey and potato chips and veggie burgers are expensive, that's a different thing. Okay, the next argument, animals eat other animals. For some reason, people think that it is morally justifiable for human beings to eat meat because other animals eat other animals. But to begin with, there are so many things to be said about this. To begin with, when you think of animals eating other animals, you're typically thinking about animals such as lions, wolves. But these animals are not the animals that we normally eat, because we eat cows, we eat pigs. I mean, not we, I don't. But meat eaters eat cows, pigs, chickens, all animals that do not eat other animals, by the way. The second thing that I can say is that it's simply absurd to say the lion eats the gazelle. Therefore, that means that if it's not wrong for the lion, why should it be wrong for me? Well, that's interesting, because what makes you think that is not wrong? Who decided that is not wrong? But that's besides the point. The point is, why should it be right for you to do something just because animals do it? Now think about what animals do. Animals, for example, some animals kill their own babies. But that would be wrong for you to do it. They commit incest, but that might be wrong for you to do it. So it's really neither here nor there to say animals do it. Furthermore, the animals that you have in mind when you say they eat other animals, that's because they have no options. Unfortunately, the lion does not have the option of preparing a meal, but human beings do. They do have that option. Animals like lions or wolves do not have the option of, for example, going into a supermarket and buying mangoes and bananas and broccoli. But we do. Okay, the next one is that animals are not rational. Whatever that means, they're not rational. The problem with this argument is that if we say that it is morally permissible to use, to exploit, to eat, to kill organisms that are not rational, then that includes a lot of human beings that are not rational. For example, a fetus is not rational. An infant is not rational. People who unfortunately suffer from severe mental disabilities are not rational. So then it would follow that if we can exploit, kill, eat organisms that are not rational, then it follows that we can eat, there would be nothing wrong with killing and eating and exploiting human beings that are not rational. It doesn't really work. Another argument is that human beings have canine teeth. I've heard this many times, and I have no idea what this means. Does it mean because we have canine teeth, we are obligated to eat meat? No one obligates you to do anything. So the shape of your teeth do not have to dictate the type of diet that you eat. Finally, there are many people who say that diet is their personal choices. And so you have to mind your own business. And veganism tries to take away their freedom. This is a very misconceived argument. It's not an argument at all. Your diet is not a personal choice, because diet can cause unnecessary suffering, environmental degradation, lots of issues that have negative impacts globally. So when your diet, because diets they can have negative global impacts on the environment and on other people, other human beings and animals, then diets are not personal choices. A personal choice is something that you do that does not negatively affect other people and animals and the environment. So diet is not a personal choice. Diet is an ethical choice. Okay. I am done. I hope you liked my short presentation. I think I gave you some good reasons to consider following a vegan diet, unless you have more excuses. What is your excuse? I think personally there are no excuses. There are no good arguments in support of animal-based diets. At least insofar as we are concerned. And when I say we, I mean industrialized societies. Okay, I'm not talking about scenarios where you're on a desert island, there's nothing to eat, or in a polar region. I am talking about you and me. If you have a computer and you're watching this, and you have a supermarket in your town, in your city, you're likely have access to fresh vegetables, and there's no reason for you to follow animal-based diets, which contribute to not only the suffering of animals, but also the suffering of human health and the environment. Thank you. Leave your comments. Feel free to contact me and ask questions. And have a great day.